All right, so we're good to go. We should be recording. Again, I just wanted to, welcome all of you to our workshop this evening. Like I said, it's a small crowd, intimate crowd, so feel free to ask questions along the way. I think I'm going to change up my presentation some since it's a handful of us here. Um, just so you know, I know I believe it was Stephanie who said she has class at 6, and some people have class at 7. So I definitely will, not I'll try to be very mindful of that for sure in the information I present. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, so I think when it comes to job prep, most of you are probably going to know some of the things that I'm going to cover this evening. This is more of a refresher. I'm going to see if I can try to approach certain things maybe in a manner that sometimes you don't think of, right? And on top of that, one of the things that I would like to maybe start off with is, and maybe people can put in a chat or feel free to open up your microphone. Is there anything specific when it came to job interview preparation that you wanted me to touch on? So before I even jump into the material, I would love to hear if there's anything specific, especially for those of you who maybe have to leave early, you can't stay for the whole thing. I would like to maybe touch on answer some of those questions while you're here. So please do let me know.
Well, I'm actually switching careers from education to technology and just answering the questions. And is there a different format in answering interview questions or anything
Okay.
specifically that they look for?
Okay. So like on career transition, if they're asking you on your resume, like you did this, why are you looking to now shift into the to X, right? From X to Y, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
Or even any like industry specific questions, like geared around technology, what would they look for in those answers
Okay.
when asking these questions?
Okay. All right. Industry specific. All right. Anyone else?
Mine's kind of the same as Juanita. I currently work in education and I'm trying to, look for opportunities in marketing, but I have no prior experience. So if I were to come across those questions, like Juanita said, is there like a certain way to answer them or, how do we go about answering those questions?
Right. Okay. So let me sort of jump in answering those two questions just right off the bat. And those are really great questions. The great thing about it is before, if you've made it to the interview already, with a background in education, looking to switch to marketing, or Juanita, I'm not sure what, I know you just mentioned transition. But most likely, if you don't have work experience on your resume yet, the key is going to be that you're going to build projects on your resume. So give me 1 second. Let me see if I can, let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really quick. So let's just say, for example, this is a sample resume that um, I'm going to share that we have here. It's a Billy Beach resume, and this is for those who are information systems. And if you notice, this is those who are focusing on tech, getting into the tech space. And if you notice on the resume, there's no work experience, it's all projects. So the first step, and it could be that maybe this person, let's see, the background, they had a background in computer science, so maybe it was software engineering and the like. Or some people come with electrical engineering or something completely different. And they don't have any work experience yet, so they have projects on there. So the first thing for Stephanie and Juanita, the first thing you want to make sure is that you have projects on there that speak to the field that you want to step into, particularly like Juanita is talking, mentioning tech, right? So the recruiter is going to look at those things, and you're going to, when you're looking for work, you're going to look for, let's say, getting into tech. Let's say maybe it's a data analyst role that um, um, Juanita is speaking of. Then you're going to make sure that you put projects on your resume. You're going to learn the skills that relate um, to that field that you want to transition to. Now, when they ask you, why do you want to transition to that field? Um, maybe the truth of the matter is you think it just makes more money. It makes more money, right? But obviously you don't want to say something like that. You really want to find something organic about the tech industry that you like. Maybe you really are, if it's data, maybe you love solving complex problems with data. Maybe you found that in class working with data sets or tech was really insightful. You loved how you, again, able to solve problems or drive business initiatives. Maybe that's your strength. Maybe it's the strength you're great at communicating, and now going into tech and you've learned these tech tools, you're just adding strength upon strength. So you're going to articulate that into interview. Like, so for instance, maybe your background was, like you said, education and teaching, and now you want to get into data analyst. Well, with teaching, you had to, communicate with people, stand in front of people, and get ideas across to them, get people to engage. You can do the same thing with tech. Many times in tech, you may have to create dashboards where you're standing in front of, management or clients, and you're going to have to engage with them as such. So you can use communication as a transferable skill, right? Or in the teaching space, a lot of it maybe was having to learn the particular subject matter. Maybe you love learning, you love learning new tools. You have a passion for utilizing tech. Maybe your job when you were teaching, you had to touch on technology, and you found that you really loved it. So you're just gonna you're going to speak on your past experience in a way that it can relate to what you like, what you're passionate about, and let that speak to the position or the industry that you want to transition to. So, and recruiters know that people change jobs all the time. So that's not going to be the issue. The issue is really going to be, can you speak to the job description that is at hand in the interview? Does that answer the question to some degree?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And Juanita?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And but if you still have any questions, please feel free to, you can always ask a follow-up per se, is as we go along. All right, so let me do this. I'm going to start with, when it comes to preparing for the job interview, the first thing that we're always going to do is look at the job description. So I pulled up here, let me share with you. I pulled up here a couple of jobs to look at. Bear with me one moment. Okay, here we go. Just want to share my screen. All right. And I think you should see it now. So this is an MBA intern that is at a company called Databricks, and it relates to finance. So that's one. Another career that we want to look at is a data analytics intern that is at Canon, USA. So we're going to look at both of these. So what I normally do is I will take a look at the job description and I'll highlight some things. Um, but I'll show you what I'm looking for when I'm looking at the resume. I'm sorry, when I'm looking at the job description. So let me do this. I actually copy this and put it into a Word format. So let's just take a look at that right now for this one. So this is I think you should see it now, the job description for the MBA intern strategic finance with Databricks. So Databricks, now as I'm going through the job description, I'm just going to sort of quickly just highlight things that just sort of stand out. So when I'm looking at about the job, and I'm not going to read through all of the job description, but just the highlighted things that I put down here. It says here that at Databricks, we are passionate about helping data teams solve the world's toughest problems. So that is something that stands out to me. I'm going to highlight that, put that in my back pocket. Okay, they sort of seems like they pride themselves and they're passionate about solving the world's toughest problems, and it must be that they're looking for people who are also passionate about that. So It could be that, again, if you're transitioning into a new industry tech space, you can speak on that. You know, I really started, my background is in education, but when I was going through my MBA program, I started touching on some tech tools, realized I was passionate about it, and, looked at the positions such as this. And I think my passions, my passion for data would lend itself to this position. And right, so something along those lines. Now, granted, I'm just saying that off the top of my head. Now, this position is, let's see here, it's a strategic finance MBA intern position, and it's going to touch on some things that you will be working on. So I highlighted this here. It says you'll work on impactful projects spanning go-to-market finance, strategy and operations, and accounting, including developing executive-friendly dashboards to track real-time financial metrics and creating in-depth analyses to measure sales productivity and ROI across business segments. So that tells me off the top of my head, I need to know what experience at all do I have with go-to-market finance? Do I have any experience that I can speak of when it comes to strategy and operations? Have I touched on anything in accounting in my past? And when it talks about developing executive-friendly dashboards, that's what I was saying in regards to you may have to build out dashboards and get in front of management, whether it's middle management, upper management, company stakeholders, to speak on what it is that you're presenting. So what experience do I have in this? Whether it's getting up in front of key stakeholders, management, or creating dashboards. What experience do I have when it comes to tracking financial metrics and creating in-depth analyses that helps me measure productivity, sales productivity. Um, it also says here that your work will provide valuable insights to leadership, helping drive data-driven decisions. So this is also letting you know that even in this internship, your work is going to be presented to leadership, upper management. And you again want to ask yourself, do I have any experience whatsoever in that? If I do, what is it? And if I do not, how do I speak to that in an interview if I don't have that, right? It could be, you know what, I haven't had the opportunity yet to have to present my findings to middle management, but maybe in your capstone project, you had to present to your professors, you had to present to your peers in class, right, on a very important capstone project. So you can speak to that as well. But these are things that you want to pay attention to. Um, it even gets into a section of the impact that you're going to have. Now, I didn't necessarily highlight this because a lot of this in this section is what you're going to be paying attention to. But same things like developing and enhancing our data reporting foundation. What experience do I have in data reporting? Again, it talks about dashboards and tools that provide visibility into key operating metrics. So dashboards is key. Have I worked in Tableau? Tableau is a data visualization tool that you can create dashboards. So dashboards keeps coming up. So that's something that I need to put in my back pocket for this position. Again, it talks about presenting findings to senior leadership in both finance and sales. The main thing here is communication. How can I speak to communication when it comes to presenting information, especially if it's complex information? Can I present? Do I have experience in presenting complex information in simple terms to, if it's not even leadership, just an audience? If it's leadership, great. Management, great. But if not, if you don't have that experience, just an audience in general, right? So these are all the things that this job description is sort of laying out here. Here it talks again about solving complex problems analytically. What experience do I have that? If I don't have that in the classroom, if I don't have that at my job, maybe I have it in my projects and I can speak on that. Let me see here. Find creative solutions for data challenges. So they want somebody here who is going to be innovative in a sense, who's going to be using data to find solutions. What experience do I have that I can touch on and speak of that relates to problem solving, to finding solutions to complex problems? Can I speak on that at all in my real world experience, life experience that I have in the classroom? So this is all what you're thinking of as you're reading through this job description. Let me see, collaborate with team members and stakeholders across multiple functions, different departments, right? So what experience do I have with that? This is really talking about cross collaboration, communication with different people in different departments. Do I have that experience? How can I speak on that? What experiences do I have that I can pull from? Again, is it classroom experience? Is it my capstone experience? Is it experience that I have when I worked maybe maybe I'm working retail right now. Maybe I'm working in education, as Stephanie mentioned. Did I have to collaborate with different departments at the school, or whether it's I'm assuming it's a school that you worked at, or if it's not a school, maybe you work for a school district within the district. Did I have to collaborate with other people? Did I have to communicate across multiple departments? How do I pull? How can I find my past experience to bring this up in a job interview? Now, right now, all I'm doing is just high level overview of trying to be mindful of what I may need to bring to the table for the interview. Um, it says who you are. It says hey, you demonstrate an advanced ability to define and break down ambiguous and complex business problems with limited guidance. So that's what's needed for this position. So also you're an excellent communicator, written and oral. Again, it mentioned creating dashboards, speaking to management, speaking to stakeholders. So communication is important. You put your team before yourself, and you're willing to get hands-on no matter how small the task. Are you someone who can you speak on taking the initiative? Has that been your experience? Here it talks about enterprise software. Do you have any experience on any enterprise software at all? That can be SharePoint. That can be any type of SaaS programs, applications that you've had to use. Previous experience with SQL is preferred. Do you have that experience, right? So this is how I'm just breaking down a job description as I'm looking at it to prepare myself to go into an interview. I haven't even prepared interview questions yet, but I'm asking myself already, what experiences can I pull from for this? Let me quickly take a look at, hold on here. All right, I'm gonna shift. All right, so this is on. Let me shift to another one here. Canon. All right, so Canon for their data analytics intern. Some things I'm looking at here, it says Canon is an innovative global digital imaging leader that uses technology to dissolve the barriers we face in the connections we build, the experiences we create, and even the lives we live. So they're priding themselves on being an imaging leader that uses tech to dissolve barriers. Okay, that's something I may want to keep in my back pocket. Um, what you'll do, it has it has a couple of bullet points on what you'll do, but what stood out here is you'll be exposed to world-class teams and our business, marketing, and strategy initiatives. So I'm going to say to myself, okay, um, in my work experience, what experience do I have in these areas, business, marketing, and strategy? If I don't have that in my work experience, do I have that at the graduate level, whether it's my management classes, if I'm in information systems, if it's in any of my MBA courses that I'm taking? That's something that I just want to keep top of mind in case they ask me some questions as it relates to that. And here they're just getting into, again, communication, excellent written verbal communication, strong computer skills, MS, Excel, PowerPoint. All right, am I technically savvy is what I'm looking for. Team player, work independently. Do I have examples that I can speak on this? Me working by myself, working with a team and being able to do that successfully. So this again is just top of mind. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, I'm now going to, let me go back here. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go to, let's start with, I'm going to start with Databricks. All right, so I'm going to go to ChatGPT really quick. And some of you might be already doing this. If you do, this is great. All right. All right. So one of the things that I also like to do, aside from just highlighting the job description myself, I normally will go to ChatGPT and just ask it, say, hey, look, please review the job description I'm applying for and provide me with potential interview questions, including behavioral questions that I may be asked at interview. And then I go and I paste the job description here, and it will come back and provide that to you. So it'll give you the general questions like to tell me about yourself, why are you interested in this internship at Databricks? But then it'll get into judging on this job description. It'll even provide you with specific questions that you might be asked, like walk me through how you would design KPIs for a technical pre-sales team. Now that's something that I didn't think of just when I was looking over the resume, highlighting it. Explain how you would determine ROI for a new product or initiative. Describe a time that you use SQL to solve a business problem. Um, it also gets into cross-functional collaboration questions you may be asked when it comes to cross-functional collaboration. Same thing with behavioral questions using the STAR format. Describe a project where you had to analyze a large data set to drive a decision. What tools did you use? Values and culture questions. Questions that you can ask them. So ChatGPT is really good at this. Show of hands, how many people are already doing this with ChatGPT? You go in and you say, hey, look at the job description and tell me what questions, what are potential questions I may be asked? Just show of hands, how many people are already doing that? Not yet. Okay, all right. Okay, well, now you'll start. The next thing that you're going to do after you've done this on ChatGPT, I want you to now to go in and say, hey, look, please provide me with possible answers that I can prepare based on the attached resume, meaning your resume. So for Databricks, this is the one for Databricks. I utilized, let's see, I'm going to show you. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to show you what resume I used. Give me one. Let me just stop sharing here. I'm going to pull up my Word document. All right. Let's go back here, share my screen again. Okay. All right. So this is a sample resume that I used for this here. And as you can see, this is an MBA student who is who has an expertise in strategy, financial modeling, data analysis, and market research. Some of their strengths, strategic planning, again, financial modeling and the like, some tools that they've used, Excel, SQL, PowerPoint, Tableau. And again, this person has no work experience. It's all projects that they've worked on. But this project was for Boston Group, and they did a lot of case studies. So their projects were mostly case studies. Okay, so this is what this resume is. Again, no work experience at all. All they did is they came and they got their MBA and they worked on a lot of case studies, projects, and the like. So let me go back to, I'm going to go back to ChatGPT. All right. So what it's going to do here is going to say, based on your resume, here are tailored sample answers and talking points you can use to prepare for your interview with for this Databricks position, right? So tell me about a time you solved a complex problem. It's going to pull from your resume and say, all right, based on your resume, this is how you're going to tackle some of these questions. It's going to do that for how do you approach building a dashboard for financial metrics. Remember, the project one was for Boston Consulting Group is going to pull from your resume. Strategy oriented, same thing, pulling from your resume. Collaboration, tell me about the time you work cross-functionally, it's pulling from your resume. Cultural fit, it's going to look from anything from your resume to pull from that. Why Databricks? It's It's going to pull again from your resume. So use ChatGPT to help jumpstart you thinking of how to answer some of these questions. So that way, because sometimes I find that students, they kind of sell themselves short, and they may have wonderful experience that they've done, or they may say, well, I don't have any work experience yet. All I have is projects. I really don't know how to answer these questions. ChatGPT can help you get started in that. So this here is good. Now, how many people have done that? How many people have actually used their resume against the job description and asked ChatGPT to curate answers for them based on their work, their job description? Show of hands there. Not yet? Okay. Well, okay, good. Mana, very good. You've done it. Great. So at least one. Great. Okay. So this is definitely one way to tackle that. And for Canon, I did the same thing here. I'm just going to scroll down. Just scroll here. You can see here, it said, based on this job description, here are some questions you're probably going to be asked as it relates to behavioral questions. Questions related to teamwork and collaboration, communication, problem solving, time management, adaptability, and initiative taking. So you're going to get into technical and role specific questions that you may be asked of. So you're going to look at this and think, okay, how do I feel about this through how, what experience can I pull from? And I'm going to scroll down here. And same thing, I asked it to provide me with possible answers, and it did the same thing for this role here. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but let me just look at this one question here. So this is going to be for the data analytics intern position. The resume that I used, let me show you, is going to be, I'm going to show you here. Okay, I think you should see it now. This is for a student who is in the MS Information Systems program. And this student, again, has these tech skills that they bring to the table. SQL, Power BI, Tableau. They believe that their strengths that they bring to the table are data visualization, database design, data modeling, data analytics, and they have projects that they've worked on. No work experience. No work experience. So let me go back to ChatGPT again, because I only just want to touch on the first question here. All right, let's go here. All right. So if this person was asked the question, tell me a little bit about yourself. A sample answer they can give is, I'm currently completing my MS Information Systems at Cal State Long Beach with a strong focus on data analytics. Over the past few semesters, I've completed hands-on projects that involve building dashboards in Tableau, developing predictive models in Python, and constructing databases using SQL. What excites me about Canon's internship is the opportunity to apply those skills in a real-world setting while collaborating with innovative teams. I'm particularly interested in data storytelling, helping businesses make better decisions through clear visualizations and analysis, right? So you can do this. Now, granted, you can put it in your own way. I'm not going to say you copy verbatim what ChatGPT says, but it gives you a platform to jump off from, and it gives you a way to think of how to answer certain questions, okay? All right. Now, the next thing, now we've looked at just the job description, how we're going to highlight, certain points on the job description that we think are important, how we're going to utilize ChatGPT to come up with potential questions it may ask and even give us potential answers. Another thing that I like to do is I like to go to the company's website. So let me just start with Databricks. Now, I like to look at the LinkedIn page as well as the company's career page. The reason why I like looking at their LinkedIn page is because the information is condensed. And normally on LinkedIn, they're going to share with you the most important information that you should pay attention to. So when I go to the company page, what I like to do is I like to go to the About page. And on the About page, it's taking a little while to load here. All right, I just want to glean and get an overview of what they do. So Databricks is a data and AI company, more than 10,000 organizations worldwide, that they work with. Okay, let me scroll down. I also like to look if they have a specialties area, right? So there's a whole lot of the areas that they specialize in: big data, data science, Apache Spark, artificial AI, artificial intelligence, data management, data governance. And the reason why you're looking at this is because if these these specialties that they have, they might be points of interest that you yourself find of interest that you can talk about in an interview. I noticed on an interview, the interview, they may ask you, um, you might bring up that you're really interested in data warehousing, or you notice that the company's in data governance. You would love to, hopefully get some experience when it comes to data governance, what that looks like, or generative AI and the like. So you're going to use the specialty area to see what it is that they specialize in, that you can potentially maybe um, see if you have a similar liking and interest in, and it's a talking point for you to bring up. It also lets them know that you have done some homework into seeing what it is that the company focuses on. Another thing that I like to do is I like to go and then see what they're posting. And the reason I do that is I just want to see what's top of mind for the company. And I'm going to look at maybe the first, 3 to maybe 5 posts, right? So, says we are honored here to share that Databricks has been recognized as 2025 Google Cloud Data and Analytics Partner of the Year, right? So that's something that's important. You may bring up in the interview, hey, I just noticed that you won Partner of the Year with Google. Just congratulations. That's really, really cool, right? What else? We're expanding in, is it Bengaluru? My apologies, I don't know where that is. But let's see. We've recently introduced new updates to make it easier than ever for customers to run secure, scalable Apache Spark workloads. So again, you just want to look at what are they posting top of mind and seeing, is this something I can bring into the interview process, right? Bring into the interview conversation. I would also maybe even look at their life to see what are they posting, what did they talk about, what do the pictures look like. This is going to give you some insight into the culture of the company, right? Same thing when it comes to, let's go to Canon. I'll do the same thing. Well, actually, before I do that, let me go to Databricks career page. Now, many of you are already doing this, which is good. I just want to add, when you go to their career page, sometimes the career page will actually tell you what it is that they're exactly looking for. Sometimes it's on the main page. When I look here, it just says join the team making AI breakthroughs at the world's largest companies. All right, so AI is really important to them right now. It's important to a lot of people. Okay, all right. So I'm scrolling down here. It says we're growing fast and keeping our culture. Okay, culture seems to be important to them, but I don't really see anything else here. So I'm going to go to culture. Okay, when I go to culture, now I begin to see something on the page that gives me some information that I can take with me to interview. So one thing, they are customer obsessed, meaning they really, really want to take care of their customers. We raise the bar. So expectations on the type of work that you bring to the table must be high. So we are truth seeking. We make our decisions based on data and we adapt as it changes, meaning they let the data speak, right? Next, we operate from first principles. First principles thinking drives innovation and leadership, which builds a lasting impact. As starting with the question why. So why is a big thing for them. These are important things for you to know if you're going to interview with the Databricks. They're biased for action. So they want to take action. We debate, plan, execute, and iterate with urgency. So in the world of data AI, they don't like to lag behind, right? We put the company first. We do what's best for the company, which ultimately incorporates all our cultural principles. So this is really important to know. So once you go into the interview process, you're going to pull this with you, and remember, you're going to take these nuggets with you to the interview, um, to the interview. All right, so Canon, I want to look and see. Let me see, Canon. All right, let's see here. Same thing with Canon. I'm going to go to the About page here. All right. Uh, let's see here. Living and working together for the common good. All right, so this is something that is important to them. Looking for the common good. I don't see any specialties here that they have. All right. Doesn't really say much other than that. Kyosei, I believe it's called Kyosei, unites Canon and its employees in contributing to the prosperity of humanity and the protection of the world we share. So this principle seems like it's important to them, or this ideology seems like it's important to them. So I probably need to know a little bit more about that before going in to the interview. It says, as a leading provider of consumer B2B, business to business, and industrial digital imaging solutions, our determination to live, work together for the common good permeates everything that we do, from research to development. So they want to produce what's good in the world. That's what they want to do. Very important to note. So now I'm going to go to their page here at Canon and see what stands out, their career page. And let's see here if they say anything here. Do more than you ever thought possible. Okay, let me scroll down. Um, okay, again, here's their guiding principles. The guiding principles, self-motivation, take the initiative and be proactive. Conduct yourself responsibly and be accountable. Understand the situation and your role in it. So these are just some things that you just want to from the grab from the career page. You want to find, is there anything that they talk about that relates to their culture and the like that you can bring to the table with the interview? Going back to their LinkedIn page, same thing. I just want to look and see what they're posting. A new chapter begins. I guess they're having a YouTube channel. Okay, they're really getting into social media. Spending hours on tedious manual and entry tasks. Let's just see. I just want to see if anything really stands out here. That's good. We're proud to work with the New York Marine Rescue Center. So again, wanting to do good. They're just showing here what they're proud of. Being involved in the community saving turtles, right? So again, you're just going to their LinkedIn page, looking at their post, looking at their website, not just looking to see what are the specific responsibilities that you need to be able to answer to successfully land a job, but you want to gather outside information such as, what are they proud of? What do they talk of a lot? What do they speak of often? What drives them? Because you're going to mention that at interview. Okay. All right, so I do want to touch on some basic interview questions and how to approach that. But before I do, any questions or any thoughts so far before I get into questions? Silence. Okay, all right, so let me just drink some water real quick. All right, so let's do this here. Give me one moment. All right, so let's look at some just basic common interview questions. All right. Now, here's a list of about 12 questions. And this is just general. I didn't even relate it to this job description. They're just general. The number one question usually is always going to be, tell me a little about yourself. Now, what I normally say to students is when you're preparing for your job interview, I'm going to encourage you. This is definitely the number one question you want to prepare to answer. How you answer this question will set the tempo. It will determine how the rest of the flow of the interview goes. And you can cover a lot in this one question. How you answer, you can cover a lot. Now, what I normally tell students is when you're preparing for a job interview, you don't necessarily want to memorize exactly what you're going to say word for word. I've seen some people do that. You don't want to do that. The reason being is that When you're at home and you're practicing and you memorize it exactly, you might be spot on. But it might be that once you get into the interview, right? Let's just say you get into the interview and you're in the middle of giving your answer, and maybe the recruiter gets interrupted, a phone rings, someone comes in the door, they're like, hold on one second, Juanita or Mai, hold on one second. They go and talk to the person, then they come back and say, I'm sorry, continue where you were. That right there can throw you off. And you don't want to find yourself in the position of like, where was I at? What did I say? Where did I leave off? Did I say this already? Did I not say this already? Like, you don't want to find yourself in that position. So rather, what I normally recommend when you're answering any of these questions, think in bullet points. Think in bullet points. Try not to memorize exactly what you want to say, but think in bullet points. So tell me about yourself. You might say, all right, for this particular position, there are 5 things that I have to get across to this recruiter. I don't know what order I'm going to say it in, but I know for sure here are my 5 things. I've studied the job description. I've looked at the LinkedIn page. I know what drives the company. I know what's top of mind, what they're posting. I know what's important to them culturally for the company. Um, I know, what are some of the things that I bring to the table that are our strengths. So I'm going to say these 5 things, or these 4 things, or these 7 things. I have bullet points in my head of what I'm going to say. It could be for the data analyst role. It could be I'm going to mention my degree. I'm going to mention my projects. You can mention your skills that you bring to the table, your hard and your soft skills. You can mention any work experience that you have. And then you can then tie it all up and say, because of XYZ, I believe I would be an excellent fit for, this particular company. So let me see if I can give an example per se. Give me one second here. I'm gonna stop sharing really quick. Let me pull up this resume. All right, so I'm gonna do a side by side. Let's do this. And let's find the data analytics role. All right. Data, license data, just for the day. All right, so let's do this here. I'm gonna share my screen again. Do this side by side. Okay, all right. So I'm using this the information systems resume for this Canon position here. Let's do that. All right. So, and again, and this is not something I've practiced, but if they said, tell me a little bit about yourself, you can mention, I'm currently an MS Information Systems student with some hands-on experience using tech tools such as SQL, Tableau, Excel, and Python. Tools that I think would, that I definitely know would be used in this position. Um, um, I'm very experienced in when it comes to scripting, working with data sets in SQL, when it comes to Excel, doing regression analysis using pivot tables and the like. Um, I'm very I'm very familiar with the company culture at Canon, and I believe that my skill sets and what I bring to the table will only add value to this internship position. Or I believe this is why I would be an excellent fit for this internship position. Now that's really off the top of my head. It's not something that I really practiced. But what you want to do is, again, you want to touch on things like your education, your work experience, your skill sets. You can bring this into answering the question. And again, what do you know about the company's values, what they like? And you're going to wrap all of that up into the tell me about yourself. And if you can do that, you're going to answer that question successfully. And you want to do that within a window of 2 minutes if you can. 2 minutes. Another thing that I would suggest is when you get to the end of answering a question, sometimes you'll find that you're finished answering the question, and the recruiter or the interviewers are silent. And in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I'm done. And they're not saying anything. And what happens is sometimes we get nervous and we think that we need to talk more. So one way to circumvent that, to prevent that, is when you are answering that question, again, going back to the tell me about yourself, what you're going to do is when you're coming to the end of answering the question, you're going to tie it back into the position. You've said all these wonderful things about what you do, your education experience, the projects that you've worked on, understanding the company's culture, and you're going to bring it back to tying it into the company. And that's why I believe I would be a wonderful fit for Canon. And that is a little bit about me, right? So you can wrap it up by mentioning the question. And when you do this, this cues the recruiter, okay, the person's done. They've answered that question. They can move on to the next. It's also by answering it this way, it helps you control the flow of the interview to a degree. It helps you control the flow where you don't feel rushed. You don't feel rushed at all. Let me go back here, and I think you should still be able to see my interview questions. All right. Why are you pursuing a career in data analytics? And again, this goes into the question that Juanita and Stephanie were asking about in regards to transitioning. It could be, you know what, my background was in sales. And while I was in undergrad, you know, I took some classes on data analytics, really found I had a passion for it. So I ended up going to a university to get my MS in information systems. I really find that I have a knack for being able to explain really complex information in a really simple way that's really easy for people to understand. Right. So that could be a part of why you want to get into data analytics. Maybe you just love how data is used to solve problems. It could be that, maybe in your past experience, I've seen some people pull from their past experience and say, hey, look, maybe the country that I come from has had maybe certain um, pain points that they're trying to work through, and I can see how if they were able to use data in a particular way, how it can benefit people. So part of the reason why I've stepped into the field of data analytics is with the hopes of being able to utilize my skill sets to add value to people's lives. And your company, your mission, what you're driven for, I see that that's what you also intend to do. And I think Canon was the company that talked a lot about doing good, right? And I want to do good. I want to utilize my skill set to do good. So that's one way that you can answer questions like, why are you pursuing, a career in data? And again, if you look in the transition, you can use that again for transition. It's like maybe I worked in sales before, I worked in education before, I was an electrical engineer, but I tend to find that, this is what I'm really good at, or I like doing X, Y, Z, or I like solving this problem. And that's why I'm making the transition to data analytics. And so far, it's been a wonderful journey, right? All right. Some of these are subjects. Tell me about a project or experience that demonstrates your skills in data analytics. If they ask you to talk about a project, you want to mention the project on what are some of the tools that you used. And you also want to mention what are some of the outcomes. Now, sometimes what I see happen is that maybe the project that you worked on, let me do this. Let me see if I can pull up, let's see, not this one. Let me go back to the MBA. All right. I'm gonna go back to the information systems one. All right, let's do this. All right. Maybe some of the projects that you worked on, um, this isn't class projects. These are all what the person did. Let's just say like there's some people who have class projects on their resume, or the professor, right? They instruct them to do projects. So sometimes on the resume it will say, I did this, this, and this. And during the interview process, when you're talking about the project you worked on, the person talks about, I did this, I did this, I did this. That's my experience with the project. So I want you to think of it more from a business angle. When you talk about the project, talk about what were some of the insights you were able to glean from that, even if the professor did not ask that of you, even if that wasn't part of the assignment. Maybe you said, I worked on this really great project where I had to do predictive modeling to see about customer churn. I used Python to do that, but the end result was that I realized that if I did X, Y, and Z, it could mitigate customer churn for a company by as great as like maybe 34%, right? And that can drive, that can drive revenue for the company, right? So you want to speak in a manner that shows them that you're thinking in a business mindset when it comes to talking about your projects. Let me go back here. All right. What experience do you have with data analysis, or what experience do you have in XYZ, whatever it is? You're going to pull from your projects. You can pull from your projects. Volunteer experience is good. Classroom projects, projects that you came up with for yourself, your real life world experience as well. What strengths do you have? Your strength can actually be your work. Well, I have one of my strengths is that I actually have, 2 years of experience in finance. I have 1 year of experience in finance. I have 2 years of experience with data analytics, or maybe I have one of my strengths is I have experience working with data tools. I have XYZ tools that I've experience with. These are my strengths. What are your weaknesses? Weaknesses, again, this is how many people feel that, has anyone ever been asked what is your weakness? I'm so curious, show of hands or no? Maybe not, no? All right. So when it comes to weaknesses, really, what you're looking for is to find a way to show them how you're able to take, how you're able to be self-aware and improve. You want to show them how you're able to be self-aware and improve. So things such as that I'm a perfectionist, maybe that's not necessarily something that maybe a lot of people say that. For myself personally, I tend to find that if they were to ask me what is my weakness, I'd say sometimes my weakness is I don't always know when to say no. Maybe I take on too many projects. And I found that by taking on too many projects, um, it could negatively impact productivity. So how I'm remedying that is being mindful of, the projects that I'm working on. I will let the person know, you know what, maybe I can't help you right now. I have a couple of tasks I need to complete. If I'm able to complete those tasks and help you, I will do so. If not, then maybe I might check in with my manager to say, hey, look, if so and so in this other department needs some help, um, are you okay if I, are able to do that to help them out? Or you can see if you can say to the person, I can delegate the task. Maybe I can find someone else who can help them if I can't do it. So that's a way we can say it's my way of improving. Um, of knowing when to say no, right? So I'm not negating helping the person, right? I'm not saying, hey, no, I just can't help you out whatsoever, but I'm putting conditions on it. So it shows that I'm self-aware. I'm still willing to help, but I'm making sure that I prioritize my workload first. I'm checking in with my own lead, my manager, my supervisor, to make sure that if I'm going to take on any additional tasks that come from a different department, that they're okay with that, right? And recruiters will get that. They get that and they appreciate that. They can show that you're making improvements. They may ask you questions about like, what are some key areas, whether it's in finance, marketing, management, operations, strategy? What do you know about, what are some key business insights do you know about these areas? And obviously, you can pull from your work experience, class experience, or it could be that you follow, you belong to certain professional organizations that you belong to. What do you know about the company? Again, I think this is self-explanatory. Many of you are already doing this. The biggest takeaway I'm going to say is when you're researching a company, try to find the nuggets. If the company's been around for 100 years and they talk about that a lot, mention that in an interview, right? Say, you know what, my position coming into this role of marketing, maybe coming into this role of data analyst, coming into this role of strategy. My goal is to, provide you, you know, um, to work in this position that continues to compel the company to success for another 100 years, right? So little things like that, most people won't bring up. Maybe the company has a passion for, cancer research. Those are things that you can bring up. Like, I really, really appreciate that. I found really interesting, and I appreciate that the company invested itself into cancer research. I think that's very noble and honorable. And and those are values. Those are values that this company has that I think align with me. The value just helping people and wanting good, right? Um, the next thing is if they ask you, how do you stay informed about industry trends and best practices? They may ask you that. It could be that you belong to a professional organization. If you don't belong to a professional organization, then I suggest that before the interview, quickly do a Google search on blogs. What are the top blogs in XYZ industry? And write them down, note them down. Who are the top influencers in this industry? Note them and write them down. Um, these are, you can speak on this in the interview. Why are you the best candidate for this role? If they ask you this, this is almost the same question as to, um, let me see, why you the best, like, why should we hire you? All right. You can, why are you the best candidate for this role? Let's just say, don't be afraid to repeat what you said. Maybe you already answered this in the tell me about yourself question. The tell me about yourself questions where you can wrap up many things. So why are you the best candidate for this role? Well, and let's just say, like, man, I already said this, and do I say this again? Yes, you can say it again. You say, well, as I mentioned before, my passion for data, the tech tools that I know, the soft skills that I have when it comes to communication, being able to, not just create dashboards, but communicate in front of my peers and audience. Um, um, my, you know, the I mentioned my tech skills. I mentioned my being able to communicate, um, my being in line with your company's values. I'm someone who's innovative. However it aligns, you can say all of these are reasons as to why I would be the best candidate for the role, right? And again, I'm saying it's at the top of my head, but you would practice this. You would drill this down and practice this. Um, what are your short and long-term goals? I think these are things that you should practice as well. When it comes to short term, I like to say that short term is about a year. When it comes to long term, I'd say maybe 3 years, 2, 3 years. So my short-term goal, I would say something along the lines of like, well, my short-term goal is to make sure that I'm really solid in this position within the year. By the time the year is complete, I should be really solid in this position. Um, I should, understand, clearly understand, have a very clear understanding of how, my work impacts the company. Um, who are the key, um, the key persons within the company, and how my position, my department relates to that. And again, just being really solid in my position after a year. And that's a realistic short-term goal, right? Maybe a long-term goal. Maybe you don't want to, um, I wouldn't say something like, I want to have your position, right? Or maybe you want to have a management position. You want to move up, but maybe the way to, you don't want to, you always want to be mindful of how you show that you want to move up in the company. If the company itself, like Northrop Grumman, is very big on wanting to work with people who want to move up in their careers, right? So you can always touch on that. Well, I'm looking to maybe look for opportunities where I can grow within the company, and step into maybe XYZ positions that maybe excite you, right? Or if you're not really sure of what that looks like in the company and you want to play it safe, after you've talked about your short-term goal of being really solid in that position for 1 year, maybe your long-term goal is like, you know what, my long-term goal is maybe I would like to specialize even more in this position. Or maybe it's, I see myself being able to maybe step into leadership roles, taking on more responsibility, right? Within 2 years or so of the role, right? Now, by saying this, you're not saying, I want your position, I'm going for this specific manager position. You're just saying, I'm looking to grow within the company, take on more responsibility, um, and the like. When they ask questions like, do you have any questions for us? I'm curious, has anybody been asked this question, and what is it that you have said? Or what do you think are some good questions to ask? I'm curious. And you can put it, if you want to open up your microphone, you can put it in the chat. I'm curious, what do you think would be, if they ask you, do you have any questions for us? And I do think if they ask you this, you should ask. You should ask.
I have asked about what our new practices, because this is a company that I was actually referred to return to once, like for a different position
Mhm.
than one I initially was at. So I asked what were any differences in the last few years since I've been at the company.
Ah, very good. Very, very good. Very good. Very good. Anyone else? All right, people are quiet. One question that you can ask, I always say, and thank you, Juanita, you asked, I think you should ask questions that give you something that you can, it gives you something to work with. You can take away something from it. And the question that Juanita asked does that. Sometimes people ask questions like, they say, well, I'm curious to know, like, what was your career journey? They may ask out of the career, I'm curious, what was your career journey? What was it like for you? That's okay to ask, but it may not necessarily give you something tangible to work with. So one question that I think is always safe to ask is to ask something along the lines of, I would like to know what does success look like in this position after 1 year, right? What does success look like in this position after 1 year? Because that way they're going to specifically tell you, oh, okay, well, this year you should know how to do X, Y, and Z. This, and this. You're like, okay, great. Let me write down, take some notes. Okay, they just told me what the expectations are going to be in this position in a year. So that's going to let you know, all right, oh, I feel confident that I can do that. Oh, okay, they mentioned this area. I really need to brush up on that, right? It's also going to let you know during the interview if they're saying within 1 year you should really know how to do this, they could have touched on something that maybe you didn't during the interview, you don't feel that you answered well. So that lets you have the chance to come back around and say, oh, if after 1 year I should be able to do X, Y, and Z. Great. All right. Well, again, because I've been working on X, Y, and Z, I definitely, you would answer and you can always give an answer in a way that sort of touches on an area that you feel that maybe you were weak in. Or another thing that you can ask is, are there any areas of concern that you have about my candidacy? Are there any areas of concern that you have about my candidacy that I didn't address? Right, you can ask that as well. You may come back and say, well, yeah, there was this one thing that you didn't touch on. You didn't touch on X, Y, and Z, right? That they may want you to do. Um, so I know I went through these relatively quickly. I always work with students one-on-one to to um, you know, to sit down and curtail this specifically for them when they're going through the interview process. Last thing that I want to do here is show you um, if you have a technical interview, what are some things that you want to utilize to help you prepare. So if you have a technical interview, there are websites like LeetCode. I do recommend that you utilize LeetCode. HackerRank is another one, and as well as Code Signal. So these are three websites that are really good to prepare you when it comes to um, technical interviews. Also, let's just say you have a case interview coming up. If you go inside of it logs me out here. If you go inside Career Link, you can log on to Case Coach and go to practice. Let me go to Case Library. Let's see if it's still all right. Case Library, and you can click on cases with videos. Apply to that. Okay, and you can see here. Let's see, watch video. This is going to allow you to practice, to actually see someone go through a case interview by video as opposed to reading the case interview. So this is a good practice tool as well. I think another tool that is good to utilize is, let me go into Career Link. I don't know how many of you have used Big Interview, but Big Interview, let's see here. Once you're inside Career Link, you'll go to Resources, Online Tools, and Big Interview. Okay, log in. I'm going to log in to Big Interview. Okay, once you're inside, what I like about Big Interview is it gives you practice sets to work on. So I'm going to click on practice sets. You can practice by general questions or industry specific, right? So I know Juanita mentioned technology, so I'm going to click on technology. Maybe you're interested in cybersecurity. I just click on cybersecurity, and it's going to have practice questions for you. Now, another thing that's really good with Big Interview, I'm going to click on Practice with Diana. When I click on Practice with Diana, you can also see here, it can give you AI feedback. So it's going to say continue to eye tracking calibration. What it's going to do is it's going to calibrate how you're looking. It's going to read your facial expressions and once you go through all the questions, it'll give you feedback on that. But let's just say for now, for sake of time, I'm not going to get into utilizing the AI feature, but this is something that you can do with Big Interview. Let's say you want to practice without that, you can do that. You can see here the webcam is off. But they'll ask questions and you answer, and the tool can give you feedback. And here are some questions here that you can see that they would ask. Can you explain the concept of 2FA, two-factor authentication, how it can be implemented for a user? It's just a list of questions, right? But this is very good for coming up with questions just for you to practice, general questions here. Maybe you want questions to practice if you're looking to step into a managerial role. Your standard, let me see, view tips and answers. So it gives you a list of questions here that you can practice. And sometimes they will give you the answers as well. Let's see here. So tell me about your management experience. It's going to tell you how to approach answering this question. All right. Build an answer, practice with JT. Let me see. How do you, all right, here. Sometimes it even gives you a sample answer. How would you describe your leadership style? It's going to tell you again what they're looking for and how to practice answering that. So, Big Interview is good for that. You can even, when it comes to practicing, you can see here. Oops, I already did that. Give me 1 second. Competency. You can practice interview by competency, emotional intelligence, leadership, logic. So I would say take a look at it. Definitely take a look at it. I know it's about 6:45. I know two of you have hung in there to the very end. That is a general overview of how to get into like interview preparation. I don't know if there's any specific questions you may have before we wrap things up. Anything that I didn't touch on that maybe you wanted me to touch on? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for hanging in there. Um, this session is being recorded, so you can always go back and look at it at a time that is convenient to you. I'll send an email to the group letting you know when the upload is available. Please feel free to make an appointment with Michelle or myself. If you would like to practice interview prep, Michelle and I would be more than happy to help you with that. So for now, take care. And I'm looking forward to seeing you, whether it's in your classroom for a class visit or maybe at a career advising appointment session. All right, Ms. Fem and Juanita, Ms. Alvarado, take care.
You
See you.
too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.